Hello all, my name is Jacqueline Nguyen, and today we'll be solving the case of the missing Krabby Patty formula. Mr. Krabs typically keeps his secret recipe in the safe in his office. However, someone had broken into the Krusty Krab on Sunday evening and had stolen the secret formula. Fortunately, investigators found an eyelash of the suspect in the safe the recipe was kept in, which can now be analyzed for DNA evidence. Investigators have narrowed down the suspects to Squidward, the cashier of the Krusty Krab who was cleaning the bathrooms while the robbery occurred; Plankton, the owner of the chum bucket in the Krusty Krab competition; Mr. Krabs, the owner of the Krusty Krab; and Pearl, his daughter. After collecting all of the DNA from the evidence and from our suspects, we ran two different VNTR gels at two different loci. By analyzing these gels, we can see who the culprit is. All of the black bands on the gel show that the gel electrophoresis had worked properly, so they do not need to be accounted. Additionally, we can see that Mr. Krabs and Pearl share at least one band at each loci, which means that they are biologically related. We can conclude that Mr. Krabs is Pearl's biological father. For the first VNTR gel, we see that Squidward does not share any bands with the DNA found at the crime scene, so he can be ruled out as a suspect. Looking at Plankton, we see that he shares both bands with the found DNA, making him a potential suspect. Looking at Mr. Krabs, we see that he only shares one band with the crime scene DNA. Because both bands must be consistent with the DNA found at the crime scene, we can rule Mr. Krabs out as a suspect. Looking at Pearl, we can see that she also shares both bands with the DNA found at the crime scene, making her a potential suspect. For the second VNTR gel, we see that Squidward shares both bands with the found DNA. However, because Squidward's DNA was found to be inconsistent with the DNA at the crime scene at the first loci, he can still be ruled out as a potential suspect. Looking at Plankton, we can see that he does not share any bands with the DNA found at the crime scene. We are now able to rule Plankton out as a suspect. Looking at Mr. Krabs, we see that again, he only shares one band with the crime scene DNA. This means he can be ruled out as a suspect completely. Looking at Pearl, we can see that she shares both bands with the crime scene DNA. Because her DNA completely matched with the crime scene's DNA at both loci, we can conclude that Pearl was the one who stole the Krabby Patty secret formula. Investigators later learned that Pearl stole the secret recipe to sell on eBay, so she could see Boys Who Cry in concert.